online and buy them, put them in your Instant Pot for 40 minutes, take them out, and then you just use them like pine nuts, put them on your salad. If you're making some food that you're like a stew and you're sharing it with your family, take your soybeans and have it be your dose. Don't just mix it with everybody else's food, because I want you to get the amount that we know that works. And if you want to, you can then take the cooked soybeans, put them on a baking sheet, cover it with parchment paper, spread them out thin, bake them at about 350, 360 for an hour, and make it until they're real dry. And then you can salt them up if you want to. And what you're going to discover is you can put them in little bags. So if you're on a business trip somewhere, you just have half-cup bags of toasted soybeans, and they work great. They're like a medicine. You can also buy them pre-made. Toasteds is the brand, and they work great. Oh, by the way, I saw JW, if you don't mind my just grabbing this question. Somebody said there's more to menopause than hot flashes. There is. That's true. Although I have to say the biggest reason people go see their doctor and they're taking a hormone replacement is because of hot flashes. We looked at other symptoms too. Physical symptoms tend to improve on this, like headaches and so forth. Psychosocial symptoms like mood improves as well. Sexual symptoms improve as well. However, I do not think that a vegan diet or any other diet change is going to really eliminate the vaginal changes that will occur. So if a woman is thinking about using hormones for that, talk to your doctor about it. But my suggestion is that you might think about, instead of taking systemic estrogens, a pill or a patch, you just use for sexual functioning or vaginal health, you just use a local cream. Some of it is absorbed, but the absorption is less. And so far, we don't see an interaction with cancer risk that we see with the oral estrogens.
Do you recommend bioidentical hormones as opposed to regular hormones?
I don't recommend either one. The estradiol in a cow is bioidentical to yours. The estrogens that cause cancer are bioidentical to yours. Let me make one exception. If it's progesterone that you are using, I think you could make a strong case for using progesterone itself as opposed to a synthetic progestin. With regard to the estradiol, the ones that cause cancer that have been shown to be associated with cancer are a woman's own estradiol, unfortunately, in high doses. So what I'm getting at is hormones are dangerous. Thyroid hormone is natural. Your body's thyroid hormone is natural. But if you make too much of it, it could kill you. Your body's insulin is natural. But if you have too much insulin, it will kill you. Growth hormone is natural. Hormones are like dynamite. Your body uses them only at the construction site. It uses it you got to be really careful with it. So if we are playing around with hormones in a dangerous way, you can run into real big trouble. So you don't want too little, you don't want too much, and so forth.
During your lecture, you described a two-step technique for adopting a plant-based diet. Could you briefly reiterate those steps for our audience?
Sure. And we use this all the time. And there are different modifications. Step one, by the way, let me give you the philosophy behind it. Some people will say, just take baby steps. Just make one change a week. Just add a vegan meal on Saturday. And you know what? I never do that. We don't do that at all. That is not going to get the patient enough change for them to see a quick reward. So it's like you're at the swimming pool and it's June and you think, well, it's a little cool. And so I'm afraid to get in the water, and you're kind of going down the steps slowly into the water. Stop that. Go over to the deep end and jump in. And inside of about a minute, you're going to be used to it. So we have people jump in a completely vegan diet, but we do take a week to help them get ready for it. And so the way we've typically done it is you take a week just to check out the possibilities. We give people books like The Power Foods Diet is perfect for this because the recipes are really simple and they test well, but there are plenty of others as well. And a person makes a list of the foods they like. And then secondly, they then do 3 weeks all vegan all the time. So they're jumping in, they're getting the results really quickly. They get a big reward and they want to stick with it. We have done a modification of this lately where we'll do week 1 is you change just your breakfast or just breakfast and snacks, and your lunch and dinner could still be your usual diet. And then the next week, you take more things out. So I'm sorry, let me say that again. First week, just get used to it, try different things. Second week, just change your breakfast and your snacks. Third week, change everything. And we find that that works really, really well. But it is good to add to this some kind of weekly or so meeting with a dietitian or with a health coach or one of our Food for Life instructors. You'll see them online, Food for Life. It's a great opportunity to talk to somebody. Or go to a vegan club or a plant-based support group or something like that, or go to our National Diabetes Program. Because you're going to have questions. There are always answers, but you're going to think, well, what do I eat at a restaurant? Or what do I do when I travel? Or I had a little bit of gas from beans, and what do I do? And the answer is eat less. But these questions come up. There are always answers. Find a little support network to just hold your hand in the first, couple of weeks.
What resources does the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine offer to individuals interested in learning more about plant-based diets for health?
Okay, well, I did mention our app that we have, which is the 21-Day Vegan Kickstart. You'll see it on your iPhone. It's free. And we actually made it for doctors, but the patients liked it so much that they've been using it. Our National Diabetes Program is every Tuesday at 12 o'clock Eastern time. I call it national, but people come in from Europe and all over the place, and it's really, really, really fun. One thing I didn't mention, but I really should mention, the exam room. Chuck Carroll, the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll, he is the host of the exam room, and it is great. Go online and subscribe. We've got people watching from about 150 countries, and it's really, really good. I myself, at the risk of just mentioning my own resources, my most recent book is The Power Foods Diet. That's one we've been talking about. Just before that, I wrote a book called Your Body in Balance, which talks about hormones and menopause and cramps and all these things. And I have a book also about reversing diabetes that many people have found to be extremely helpful. So I hope people get a chance to try these. But as I mentioned earlier, there's plenty of other great books out there and great videos. If you haven't seen Forks Over Knives and What the Health and these other and Game Changers and so forth, get some air pop popcorn and grab your family and have them watch these things.
You advocate for systemic changes in hospitals and schools regarding food. What are some key policy changes you believe are necessary?
Well, I have to say, I want to thank our friends at the American Medical Association. The AMA 20 years ago was not really a big proponent of healthy eating, and it was kind of skeptical about plant-based diets. But however, it was 2017, the AMA passed a policy saying that every single hospital ought to have plant-based meals available. This means a vegan meal available, and they should never serve processed meat like hot dogs or bacon or sausage. Right now, you can go to just about any hospital, and the idea is, well, you're recovering from surgery. We don't want to push you too hard, so we'll let you eat any old unhealthy thing for breakfast. Stop. You're in a hospital. You are in a controlled environment. When you're there, you're not going to smoke. You might say, well, but I'm used to smoking. I don't want to go into the stress of not smoking. You're in a hospital. This is a teachable moment for the next week or however long you're here. You're going to be a non-smoker. And when you leave, you got power. If we serve healthy foods and give you a recipe book, here at PCRM, we have a patient recipe book that we give. We've given out thousands. You'll see them on our website. If you learn vegan tastes when you're in the hospital and you get recipes to take home and your family puts this to work, good heavens, it's the greatest thing in the world. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is we have to find a way to pry the school lunches out of the hands of industry. Kids today are in the worst shape of any generation in the history of this country. And it is because of the excess of unhealthy foods that they are eating. And I'm talking about meat, I'm talking about dairy products, I'm talking about eggs, I'm talking about junk, fried foods and candy and sodas and every other thing. They need healthy foods for two reasons. One is to support their growth. The other is to train their taste buds to know these things. Because in the blink of an eye, they're going to be 40 or 50, and they're going to be on somebody's exam room with a high cholesterol level saying, well, these are the foods I grew up with. It's hard for me to change. There's a dangerous move in Congress right now, which is to say, let's reverse the restrictions on the dairy products that are currently in schools. Right now, you can't have fatty dairy products. There is a move to say, let kids eat fat. It's better for the farmers to be able to sell them high-fat dairy. And there is a mythology that somehow butterfat or beef fat isn't going to hurt you. And that is not consistent with science, and it's not consistent with the good health of kids. So this bill in Congress is called the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act. And it's one of these regressive moves, I have to say, that is not going to do the next generation any favors. And let me be clear, farmers are good people. Dairy farmers are decent folks, and cattle farmers are decent folks. My grandfather raised cattle. My dad grew up in the cattle business, and I myself have driven cattle to slaughter before I knew better. But these are honest folks who have a business that they're trying to run. But they themselves are at risk for diet-related problems, and their kids are at risk for diet-related problems. And they are in exactly the same position that the tobacco farmers were in a generation ago. These were decent people too, who planted a crop and sold this crop. And back when tobacco farming got started, nobody knew it was caused cancer. Well, we know that now. And we know that the best thing to do is to avoid tobacco completely. And we also know that you're better off not trying to eat like you're a carnivore, because you're not. You are by nature an herbivore, and we have to help our industry to change. Don't punish the farmers. Let's help them to change in a good way.